Ex-prisoners of Reddit who have served long sentences. What were the last few days like leading up to your release? I did 14 months in a county jail. The days were long. I played a lot of cards, chess, and I made everyone laugh, including the co's. Honestly, jail saved my life. The days leading to processing out was weird to say the least. I hadn't seen the sun in so long. The weirdest thing was using silverware. I went to eat at a Denny's that morning and my eggs tasted like metal. I didn't know what the frick, and then it dawned on me. I've only been using plastic utensils. There's some guy in my local Tennessee county jail, locked up on 10 consecutive 11/29s. No TV, 2 meals a day, never go outside, and nothing but books and cards. I think he's been there like 4 or 5 years now. Peeping Tom type thing. Menace to society, judge thought. Tennessee is FKN hardcore. I did 5 years and the months leading up to release were nerve-wracking. It's exciting to know you're getting out, but in the back of your mind you're just praying every day that something doesn't happen. I kept worrying that I was going to get called down to talk to someone and be told that a mistake was made and I was in fact not getting paroled. Every day for 3 months. Then there are the other inmates. You have to be careful who you let know you're getting out. You don't just skip around letting the whole world know. BC, some people just want to see the world burn, and starting a fight would have comparable minimal consequences for them. So it would be either fight back and lose your parole, or sit there and get your butt kicked. So you worry about that a lot. But man, when you finally walk out those doors, it's the most beautiful feeling ever. It's been 3.5 years since I've got out and I'm now married with a good job and my own home. My father worked with an inmate from a local prison back when they were laying in cable for TV in the city. Guy he had was smart and worked hard, even was interested in cable TV and how to maintain it. My dad offered him a position cause he was getting out in the next few weeks. He refused it. He was from NYC and planned to get off the transport bus, walk up to the nearest officer, punch him, then turn around ready for the handcuffs. When asked why, he said something that still bugs my dad to this day. He said that in prison you get 3 good meals a day, a bed, work, and even free time. What was the point of busting his butt for an easy life when it was going to hand it to him? As long as you behaved you were set for the rest of your life. The guy knew he would never get a job once getting out, and his family had mostly abandoned him, so it was just easier this way. At the time he was in his late 20s. He had been in and out of prison since he was 14. He only served a few year-long sentences each time. My dad checked back a few weeks after he left and sure enough he decked an officer not even 5 minutes after he was free and was in another prison 2 weeks later. I was in daze for a while as a teenager. I remember being scared of being out more so than happy. The routine, the straightforwardness of always doing the same thing every day just got so ingrained into me I didn't know what I was going to do when I got out. When I had got out before I would always go back to the same thing, but I wanted to do better this time. I was lost for a bit and thought I was going straight back to it, but I have a wife and 3 kids now and I'm doing great. I look forward to the day when our society changes the prison system to one focused on rehabilitation instead of punishment. As someone who grew up elsewhere, I see 2 major issues: profit motive by prison industrial complex, and the general sentiment of many Americans who view convicted felons as subhuman. Unfortunately, I don't see either issue going away anytime soon. I have realized is, don't tell anybody your true end date for your sentence. Tell them 1 year later. Why set yourself up for harassment and being targeted by fellow inmates who are jealous of you? A friend of mine said it is hard because everyone is jealous of you so they harm you, but also it is hard because it is like leaving your home no matter how bad that home may be. My cousin went in for 9 years. He was one of the first to be prosecuted under new statutory laws at the time. He had just turned 18 and his GF at the time was a month or so away from 16. He came out as an xenophobic piece of seaweed. I'm not an ex-prisoner, sorry guys, but I am a criminology major that has been able to get access to some interesting people. One guy I met and talked to was a convicted murderer and heavy drug user who was a week away from his master's degree at the time I spoke with him. He spent 32 years in prison for stabbing a man while drunk one night. He said prison just became a way of life and told us the very creative yet gross and effective weapons they would make out of paper, pee, poop, and other things. He said when he first got out the food was one thing that he was excited about. His first meal out was McDonald's. Also, even though he now has a master's degree in social work, he is having a tough time finding a job. He doesn't tell people he's a convicted murderer until they get to know him because he doesn't want something from the 1980s branded to him before they get to know him for him. Awesome experience, to be honest. My cousin is an official free man on Monday after serving 23 years. He's 41 years old. He says he's excited, but you can tell he's quite overwhelmed with things, despite being very detail oriented and prepared. He has the next month and a half all planned out in his planner. Day by day, every trip, place he must visit, errand he must run, everything voluntary and involuntary is mapped out. His goal is to keep busy and continue to cut out any crap tear people habits from his past. Fortunately, he already got employment a month-ish ago in construction with work release. Getting his license next week is a pretty huge deal for him. He's still adjusting to handling grief with his family in person versus hearing about it over a phone call. I think in the past he had gotten used to it being impossible to directly help out with family, health, problems because of his incarceration, and now that he's free, he finds it difficult to come to terms with just not being able to help with some issues. Period. He's catching on to smartphones pretty fast since they had tablets in prison that they would use to write family friends emails. All he wants to do is see people and get together safely with those that he hasn't seen in years. The get-togethers have to be relatively small right now, otherwise it's stressful for him with too much commotion and such. He's looking forward to being able to reconnect in a good way with some past prison mates who have already been released or will be soon, but on the outside and as free men. The kind of men that helped him get through crappy and tough times while incarcerated, and vice versa. I came out completely different socially. I used to love crowds, people, festivals, outside concerts, act. I came out afraid of those things. My crime was non-carnal, non-violent. I would stay at home in complete silence for days. I had never gotten into any trouble before or since, and I've never been the same. People don't understand prison in America. They think they do, but they don't. They really think there's all this education, good food, and health care, but prisoners can't be. There isn't any of that. Not in a real sense. Like you would recognize it. Rehabilitation? That's a joke. No, really. Like it's a joke. The running joke with the people who work there. They just want you to shut up, stop bothering them, so they can finish their blah, blah story. Oh, there's someone having a heart attack? We'll call the infirmary as soon as the game is over. You are right about the system. I hear the judges and others in my own county talk about the things people have access to in the jail, but it is a bunch of lies and sadly, the public believes it. I honestly can't remember much about the days leading up to release. I do remember the bus ride back home though. I've never felt that unreasonably happy. I was smiling like an idiot the entire ride, which was substantial. It was a surreal experience. I still feel the buzz of freedom years later after crap tons of probation and rehab. Sometimes I'm in a grocery store and it feels crazy to be completely free and anonymous. This wasn't me, but my big brother was serving 7 years in prison, and in the last week he said that he avoided everyone just to make sure they don't mess it up for him when he gets out. My family friend's relative just got out. He committed a violent crime. It's odd how he got over a decade of being in jail when he'd never hurt anyone, and someone who violates someone can get off without anything happening to them and get a middle-class job. Seems very unfair. Why not just focus on locking up the sociopaths who want to hurt people and leave non-violent crimes to rehabilitation? I was released from prison about a year and a half ago. I did 5 years for doing multiple pills, blacking out, and setting a house and several trucks on fire. Unfortunately, I was 16 when I committed the crime. The few days before were stressful as heck. Just trying to make time fly by, doing the same things as every other day, playing spades, not watching TV because that makes time go slower, going to the yard, playing handball, etc. My last day, I gave all my belongings except for letters, addresses, and a few packs of Marlboros away. I exchanged some numbers and addresses, and realized that I was going home in less than 24 hours. I sat in the shower for almost 3 hours that day, just thinking, It's crazy going in at 16 and coming home at 21. A ton has changed. When I woke up the final morning, after tossing and turning all night, I was nervous as frick, pacing around the dorm all morning because I decided that somehow they were going to call me to leave earlier than they call everyone else. But I ended up getting called to the front gate at about 8 AM. Had to fill out some paperwork and get told to wait in a few different spots. Got all of my belongings from different jails that somehow got found after years of being lost in the system. And I got walked out, minus the $50 they shorted me from what remained on my commissary account. Now, about a year and a half later, I'm home free. I've got 1/2 years left on parole, and so far no warnings or violations. So here you go, Reddit. This is a brief summary of my last days. At first I hated prison. I freaking hated it. Then I got used to it, stopped counting the days and months. Then, it was just my life. Stopped thinking about the outside, except for birthdays, summer days and Christmas, and the release. Then the release came closer. I couldn't wait. I have a good wealthy family, and a loving wife that was with me from the start to the end, and because of that I had so many opportunities to never go back in. So for me, I didn't have that hard of a time adjusting. Some things were very weird, like grocery shopping, using smartphones, even though they were there before I got in, and simple tasks. But I was just ready to leave as soon as they let me. Not nervous at all now. I am studying to be an engineer, with the math skills I learned while in prison. Served from age 22-26. 4.5 years. My friend used to work in Northern Ireland in warehouses with forklifts. That's his story. His colleague was very down-to-earth good guy in his late 50s. They never spoke a lot about personal lives, more work-related content. One day the guys from that warehouse bought beer and decided to chill at his house. They got some, and after some time, my friend asked that guy some generic questions like where you worked before, how's family, etc. Turns out that nice old guy was released half a year ago after serving 30-something years. In 70s, he was with Irish Republican Army and bombed something. Didn't tell specifics. What he said about being released after that long time. He said that the world is total different now and it is still hard to adopt for him, especially technology. Plus, he said he didn't regret doing bombing because he thought it was good cause, just didn't want people to hurt. But most heartbreaking thing he said, that he regrets didn't see his children grow up, and now his ex-wife and kids has a very little contact with him. Basically, gave him a cold shoulder. 4 years. It was surreal and scary. It didn't feel real the few days before getting out. When I found out my release was coming a few months earlier than I'd originally thought, I thought it was all a mistake. I felt so used to being there I thought they'd tell me it was a mix-up and I must stay. Even the next few months at home I thought they'd arrest me and say it was a mistake and I must return to prison. I was overwhelmed and scared to go in public, out with friends, etc. I always thought something would happen to make me go back. All the choices in stores freaked me out after having so little choice for so long. I remember standing in the lotion aisle for 30 minutes wondering if I needed lotion for dry skin, aloe, extra moisture, scented, etc. I gave my list to my uncle and asked him to get my things while I sat in the car. The last few days in prison though were just surreal. I was excited, but cautious about getting my hopes up even though it was a sure thing. You're expected to give all your things away. I did, but again was scared I'd have to stay and my stuff would be gone. I was very institutionalized. A friend was in prison. The thing that resonated with me was at the end he said the guards were friendly. His mom messed up and thought he was being released at 3 PM but he was released at 10 AM. It was raining. The guard said he could sit in the guard's recess room. He said no and just sat outside in the rain for 5 hours by the gates waiting. He had served 3 years, I think. I swear it feels like prison makes people worse. I've never been, but I've heard so much about people going right back in after they get out because they can only go back to what they were doing because they can't get jobs. I think the Shawshank Redemption represents it very well. After so many years in prison you become institutionalized. It's like being born again but without adults to guide you, protect you and take care of you. You're on your own. You have responsibilities and the world doesn't help you. Get busy living or get busy dying. I laid low. A lot of my friends were lifers, and some of them got mean and weird as I approached my date. I stayed in my room. I dreamt I could fly the night before I got out. I remember it vividly to this day, and I remember how I could fly. It was like being on a rope swing or something. That feeling of momentum. It was so crazy and I woke up feeling so free. I did 2 years at a medium security prison for violating probation before a lawyer had my sentence overturned due to the probation officer's mishandling of my case. The thing is, I had no idea it was happening. I knew it might happen, but I didn't realize it was happening at that moment. When the COs came into my cell, cuffed me, and put me into solitary. One of them asked, "What did you do to go to the hole?" and I answered, "Honestly, I don't know." Turns out, once my sentence was overturned, I was no longer a state inmate, and the prison was responsible for my safe return. In Gen Pop I was a liability, since now I could sue if I got hurt while in their custody. I still had no idea why I was in the hole until a couple hours later when the van showed up to take me. You can't walk out of that prison. They bus you to the superior court and drop you off there, unless you had a ride, which I didn't have because I didn't know I was getting out. So they dropped me off in Trenton in prison issued denims at 1030 at night with no way to contact anyone. I finally found a working payphone and called my mom. While I was waiting for her, I was harassed by 2 cops for standing on the street corner, looking suspicious. They actually searched me. I had nothing on me, obviously, and was let go, but dang. I have no idea what happened to the stuff in my cell. The guards brought me my mail and photo album, as I asked, but I don't know about anything else. I very much hope another inmate kept my Harry Potter books as a whole set and enjoyed them. I dated a guy that did 19 years in prison for debauchery. He was adjudicated, charged as an adult, when he was 17. He said after he made parole, he went into some segregated area, I can't remember what he called it, until his release date. BC inmates would try and instigate fights or inflict harm, or even kill you, for that very reason. That somebody is getting out and it's not them. I believe he was in that segregated part for a couple of months before he got to leave. Honestly, I just wanted to hide from the other inmates. I stayed up in my cell all night just pounding books away. I read the entire available Gone series in like 3 nights. Get up for meals and lock myself in my cell all day to sleep. I don't think it was a conscious decision because I was due to stay for another 2 months or so, but the guards couldn't figure out the math and let me go a little earlier than good time would account for. It's weird to think about the people I knew in there who I'll never see again. I hope those guys figured themselves out. In my last few days I was very quiet and said very little. I didn't want people to know that I was getting out. People get jealous and start fights when they think they can ruin your happiness. The only prisoner I told was my cellmate. We got close over time and looked out for each other. You should check out Ear Hustle. It's a podcast produced and recorded in San Quentin. It's really interesting and insightful. They even follow a guy out of prison later in. After serving my sentence and out of the system, the real emotions came when the weeks of my parole were about to be over. Realizing that I would no longer have to be accountable to the system's rules and control, being left to finally make my own choices was the most intimidating moment of my life thus far. And I've walked through the valley of death for my entire life. Here I am 1 week out, still scared to make my own choices but ready for what life throws at me. I used to work corrections. I remember that a lot of the guys who had been in for a long time had considerable anxiety when getting out. They had no driver's license, photo ID, social security card, mailing address, phone number, email, etc, etc. All the small things you or I take for granted that are essential for having a life. The strange catch-22 of it is, since they don't have any of that stuff, it makes it even harder to get any of that stuff. Trying to apply for a driver's license when none of your identifying documents are available or in date is nearly impossible. A lot of those inmates would be extremely nervous and tense. I think getting out is probably as stressful as first getting sent to prison for a lot of guys. It's weird, happy and sad. Sad because I made some really strong friendships in there. guys you see every single day of your life. Sometimes even guys you share a room together. Everyone always says they will stay in touch, but nobody ever does. Life gets busy on the outs. The last week guys started distancing themselves from me. One guy tried to frick with me harder than usual. Happy that it's finally over, but then nerve-wracking. So used to a certain routine for so dang long, not knowing what's going to happen next. Do I need to find a job right away? Is my family going to give me a place to stay at? Are my friends still my friends? Do they still care? Then I start to reflect on my sentence and it all feels like a weird dream. All the years have gone by and now I am going to resume whatever life I had before I went in. It's overwhelming. There's a great book that I read about 10 years ago. I can't remember the name, but it was written by various former inmates that served 30+ year sentences in Angola prison. Basically, each person would write down what the world was like when they went into prison, then write about what they heard the world was like from friends and family, then another entry about what it was like to actually see the world post-release. I remember one guy being amazed at a 10-lane highway when he went into the prison in the late 40s from a rural community. He hadn't seen much more than dirt roads and a few paved 2-lane roads. He spent from his late teens through to his 70s in this prison. It's wild to think of how much the world had changed and what his quality of life had to be like. Very few family or friends left at that point and tossed back into this new world at post-retirement age, but unable to draw social security or have a retirement plan set up. What do you do? I can't even fathom being in that position. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.